Norma, I would love to just turn it over to you and hear what is present with you as you hear um, these questions and experiences that are here.
I think of the beginning again as very much an evolutionary track, that from an indigenous perspective, that's not something to mourn. That is something to understand as a prerogative of what it means to be the people who are privileged to be the people, right? So about 95% of the indigenous names, whether you're Cherokee or Navajo or Kanaka Maoli, the native Hawaiians, or the Anishinaabe, the people of White Earth, whatever it means, whatever your name happens to be on the face of the earth, your name in your language means the people. That's what it means. That's what all those names mean. Okay? As people, what is our responsibility? Right? And to do that, I'm coming more and more into the understanding that from the indigenous perspective, we cannot think of our indigeneity in the cultural, social, historical box, where it is only that which is carried by people who culturally, socially, historically can call ourselves indigenous. Because it is truly about a way of being and a worldview that if we do not arise as people, as humans, right, then we may not see ourselves to the other side.
One of the things I've been really interested in has been looking at the repetition compulsion of violence and war and in the way that you teach about it, these like habit patterns that we're so conditioned to as people in systems and in structures, as Angela was talking about with the form. And I also struggle because healing takes time, and yet violence moves at a pace that is so rapid. And so I would love, Norma, if you could just speak to that and um, how all of that might have to do with this notion of beginning again.
Situated in this moment, I am reminded of all the great teachers who have passed since the time that I knew them, and certainly during their time, they probably thought about all the great teachers that have passed. And a thing that they would know, and which is a something for us to be figuring out in modernity, is that as time has passed, people have spent less time in the deep reflective space and the deep practices that will allow for the deepest of wisdom to grow. And so we approach each successive storm with more information, but not necessarily more wisdom. Right? And it's a problem. I mean, it's a really big problem. So there's political education, and then there's the critical thinking that would be required for people to like not just accept things in terms of what other people have said to be so. If you want to be in community, let it not be in the community that harbors gossip, right? And that way of being so required in the fast-moving pace of violence. And a thing that we can't understand is how the physics of that would work. Like, how do you actually pause? Right? How do you actually do that when things are moving so quickly and violently? And you'd say that the warriors who can move in protection but also in creation without collateral damage are those who move deeply within the core of their purpose. And yes, if I could say the word, prayer, right? And prayer would arise even if they have no religious institution that is the foundation of their spirituality. That spirit nonetheless exists, and it exists in them not only individually, but within the community of spiritual practice, in which no person is disposable, but also no person is required to hold it all for all, right? You know, the modern leadership model, or say the Western leadership model, which has invaded the entirety of the world, by the way, that notion of individualism as being that which holds everything. Even if that Shiro is magical, there's a quick move from Shiro to martyr, which makes you disposable in the annals of time, right? We need people to grow old into their wisdom and into their laughter, right? And we need the babies to see the longest of arcs of their contribution, right? And so this really requires something more of us that has to be cultivated on a daily basis. Let's say the daily practice of our resolve is even more important, and the practice of healing as we go, right? The spa day is actually not the day, right? Certainly not even enjoyable if you are so exhausted and depleted and nothing there left to even enjoy, right? And so that part of the renewal, even as we are required to enter into the many fights, right? And entering different than baited. Right? Strategy not possible when we've entered into the desperation state and have no margin left, right? Then strategy is actually not possible, both in terms of what it is, but also how we may carry it out. No strategy is written in paper or in stone. It flows with the changes that arise. And who among us are the people who will be able to do that, to see ahead, not only see what is behind us, right? And so all of that requires, right, a dedication to cultivation of humanity, right? The compass that we have, the psychophysical fortitude is not like something you can read about. It's something actually you have to practice and embody. make mistakes, right? Course correct, be in community doing that, not doing it as lone wolves. In isolation, we're taken out.
Joe, Angela, LB would love to hear your reflections or what's present as we're in this dialogue.
No strategy can survive weak spirituality, right? You cannot see it through, right? No matter how brilliant it is, right? You can't get through those hard times without deep grounding and purpose, who you are and who we are. Um, when the shit hits the fan, essentially, and it will every time, right? And it's important for us to be able to hold ourselves in a way where we can move through that effectively and make those adjustments. And so to have one without the other is in a lot of ways malpractice. And I think it's important that we sort of honor how these world spaces, worldviews, processes really complement each other and ensure that we can engage fully and thoroughly, through this process to the new world.